Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We just heard the caretaker Prime Minister Anwarul Haque address the emergency session of the OIC on Palestine, and of course he prayed to Allah to ease the suffering of the Palestinians. He called for a political solution. He commended Egypt for delivery of aid from Rafah crossing. Also that immediate ceasefire is at this time the solution for the Palestinians. Of course, the permanent solution lies in the creation of a sovereign state of Palestine with Al-Quds Al-Sharif as the capital. And he urged the international media to objectively cover the kind of brutality, the kind of carnage, the kind of genocide that is at play in Palestine. At the same time, he appreciated the efforts of the UN Secretary General and, of course, the diplomatic efforts of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Jordan, who have all tried to defuse the situation. Of course, this massacre must stop. There are no two ways of looking at what's happening in Gaza at this time. As we look at the brutality, as we look at the genocide at this time, there is no one who can look back and say that there is any other immediate solution but a ceasefire to end the suffering that is being inflicted by Israel on innocent civilians, even as we speak. We'll be talking about the ramifications of the OIC emergency meeting, the address of the caretaker Prime Minister, of course, the condemnation that is echoed by all the Muslim world, that at this time are doing their best and making efforts to try for there to be a ceasefire for the people of Gaza who are suffering at this time. All of that today on Perspective. I have with me today Dr. Zia Shamsi, who's a senior analyst. Thank you so much for being with us today on this very important topic. Munir Ahmed Saab, who is an IR expert. Thank you for joining us today. We'll also be joined by Naela Chohan, who's a former ambassador. Thank you for being with us today. Dr. Zia, like we were earlier speaking, there is, as far as the Muslim world is concerned, the Muslim states are concerned, there is universal condemnation for what's happening in Gaza. For the way that there is butchery at play, the way that, there is brutality at play, the way that we are looking at children dying, the way that we are looking at civilians being killed ruthlessly. The OIC meeting in particular, the address of the caretaker Prime Minister, how do you look at it?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mahrukh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. It pains me to speak on the subject because non-combatants, women, children are being killed, and the Israelis have made the small strip of Doha, of Gaza, as Tora Bora of Afghanistan. That was very unfortunate. Actually, why such a strong reaction? It is perhaps, to my mind, is that Israelis have taken October 7 Hamas action as their 9/11. And therefore, whatever the reaction of the US was post 9/11 against Al-Qaeda is being repeated here against Hamas. Like before, post 9/11, it was the Afghan people who suffered. Here, post Gaza or during Gaza, it is the people of Gaza are suffering. And why the reaction is so strong?
But the genocide, yes.
That was what I'm coming at. That it is out of proportion. I mean, it is not in self-defense. Their action is a revenge. Their action is a revenge. And that is why they are sometimes threatening to use nuclear weapons, sometimes threatening to use wiping off Gaza from the map, sometimes saying that we will wipe off Hamas. I mean, this is not a reaction to a self-defense. This is a planned and perhaps a premeditated, planned action that Israel is taking, and they have perhaps worked for it in previous years, for last 2-3 years, and that is why they are going as per plan. Otherwise, the whole world is calling upon calling on them that they should stop. But they are not stopping. Why? And why are the Americans vetoing? Why are the Americans vetoing a ceasefire resolution? This is very unfortunate. This is uncalled for.
Why? I want to talk about this. I'm going to go to Munir Saab. Munir Saab, like Vizaya Saab is saying, why are the Americans vetoing, a call for a ceasefire at this time?
Basically, as we have seen in the previous years, Israel is basically a child of, adopted child of the United States, and they have, supporting them right from decades. And for the last maybe 8-10 years, we have seen all the military equipment or the defensive equipment and the nuclear power they have given to Israel. And recently, we have seen a very bold statement from a minister of the Israeli cabinet that they can use a nuclear bomb as well, like to make a decision if other people don't stop supporting them, though they are only diplomatically supporting them or like morally or raising voice. But they are trying to attach all the neighboring states into. They have attacked Syria, Lebanon, and now they are planning an action on Iran as well. So, despite all the resolutions and all the proceedings in the UN General Assembly.
We were earlier talking about this, that
Yeah.
the ineffectiveness of the UN
Yeah.
is a huge factor which has been underlined by this catastrophe that we've recently seen. That the resolutions of the UN Security Council are being flouted left, right and center. There's no doubt about that by Israel, and yet there is, it seems to be ineffective at this time.
UN has become quite ineffective, not only in the case of Palestine, but also in the case of Kashmir as well, and also in case of many other conflicts. The power of veto has played havoc to the victim nations, and that is uncalled for. And the American attitude is just simply to rule the world by hook or by crook. And those nations who are supporting their cause, they are being supported by the United States. And I was talking about the last 5 years or 10 years army, a military support or the defense support that has been given, that amounts to billions of dollars. And every year Israel has been given about like 10, 12 billion, 20 billion dollars. So they have equipped Israel as a very strong nation in the region, and that would have consequences for all the Arab states as well. And now they are the Arab states, those are the neighboring countries, they are quite scared of the implications of the well-equipped Israel, and the unlimited and blindfolded support to Israel has given immense power to Israel. So that has to be curtailed somehow.
Let me let me go to Naela. Ji, Naela, can you hear me?
Yes, Assalamu alaikum. How are you, Mahrukh?
Ji, Assalamu alaikum. I'm well. I hope you're well too. Ji, Naela, there's, right now we've just been talking about the ineffectiveness of the UN and also, the power of veto in particular. That, according to Munir Saab here, he's saying, that's played havoc with the effectiveness of the UN to take any stand on any core issue. And, of course, the examples are in front of us even as we speak.
Mahrukh, it is true that United Nations, which was established in 1945 in San Francisco for maintenance of world peace, has failed to achieve this objective because while these so-called civilized developed countries believe in democratic values, those democratic values were not contained in the establishment of the United Nations, and a veto power was given to the P5. They have abused it in many places, as you can see in Iraq when they spoke of weapon of mass destruction. They attacked Iraq, they destroyed it. Even now it is in ashes. You can see what happened in Afghanistan. It was NATO forces and the UN, under the ambit of UN, United States and ISAF forces were in Afghanistan. You can see where they want to, they do. And where they don't want to, they don't. Look at the independence of East Timor, how quickly that was done, and how long has it taken for Palestine and Kashmir to exercise their right
so
to
you're
self-determination.
saying that the double standards of the West here are
Yes,
echoed
the P5.
by...
The P5 who have the veto power, although I would say China and Russia have played a positive role. China has condemned Israeli aggression, and the Chinese foreign minister at the UN Security Council has stated that if Israel has the right to exist, so do the Palestinians. And the Pakistan permanent representative in New York to the United Nations also made very articulate case for Palestine and for immediate cessation of hostilities in Gaza, and to give them right to exist, right to life, because at this moment the plan of forced displacement and pushing these people to Sinai Desert and asking Egypt to accommodate them while they occupy Gaza is absolutely horrendous. It's like somebody said that, the people of Moses were persecuted by now the same, like.
Naela, there is, overall, when we talk about, there is, of course, on the one hand, the double standards of the West. We also saw the OIC meeting. We saw the Prime Minister of Pakistan speak today, address the emergency session. Overall, this meeting and, the address also, how do you look at it?
I think it's very positive because, until now they were saying, the Muslim world is divided, and because certain countries had established relations with Israel, they would not be articulate in condemning it. But that was incorrect, because in this extraordinary summit of Arab Islamic countries, because it included Arab League and it included the OIC member countries, there was a strong condemnation of Israeli aggression, and they called for immediate cessation of hostility. They called for provision of safe corridors for provision of relief assistance to those people. It rejected and condemned this plan for forced displacement. So, in the statement,
Naila, there's a slight distortion of audio. We'll come back to you. Ji, Dr. Zia, you heard what what Naela Chohan is saying about the meeting overall. There is unequivocal condemnation. Would you agree with that? There is, of this emergency session, we've seen the efforts being made by Muslim states as far as aid also, provision of aid is concerned also. There is, of course, they are doing their best to exert as much pressure as is possible in the circumstances on Israel. But earlier on also, on a program, I had somebody say that there is only one country that can make all the difference to what's happening to the people of Gaza, and that is the US. We have also and correct me if I'm wrong, the remarks of the French Prime Minister also. We saw what he said, there is agreement that civilians, to the extent that civilians are being killed, children are being killed, women are being killed, even as we speak. And to that end, the solution is only ceasefire. But it doesn't seem to be happening. There is also public pressure. There is also, I would say an unprecedented amount of public support for the Palestinians as we all watch what's happening. And yet it doesn't seem to be making any kind of an impact on the US government.
Yeah, this is very unfortunate. And in the previous section also, as I said, that it is the hypocrisy of the US administration that they have the guts to veto a ceasefire resolution. I mean, this is unbelievable. Vetoing a ceasefire resolution at UNSC means you are giving a license to Israelis to kill the poor people of Gaza. This is very, very unfortunate, and perhaps this Biden administration will go down in the history as the most brutal administration, because it is consistently vetoing the ceasefire resolution and providing opportunities to Israelis.
What about the public? What about the public? Even the French president
I'm coming to that.
For Macron to acknowledge it, that there is, the killings are there, the barbarity is there, and it's right in front of us.
I'm coming to that, Mahrukh, thank you. Actually, my hats off to the people in the West who are coming in very large numbers and demanding their governments that they should help stop the war. But the problem is that it is Israel.
In Washington, in New York, we saw the size of the rallies themselves.
Everywhere in the world. But the problem lies with Israelis. Why? They are very lucky. I think they really are blessed people. That the entire US-led West is solid rock behind them, and they can do anything they want, and that is what they are doing. This is very unfortunate because they have the support or they have the license to kill people, and they are killing. As far as the OIC is concerned, or the failure of UN is concerned, there is no doubt about it that UN has failed in its stated objectives of maintaining peace and stability in the world. Look at the number of wars that are going at this time. Ukraine, now Gaza, Afghanistan just finished, isn't it? Syria is still on, Iraq finished few years back. So UN has actually failed. As far as the OIC is concerned, and this recent outcome of this extraordinary, this is perhaps the most vocal statement of OIC in the past so many years. This time they have really reacted the way they should have always reacted. But it is never too late. However, for the people of Gaza, it is getting late. The children killed, their schools are washed out, the hospitals killed.
And hospitals being bombed.
Yes, hospitals being. Why?
Why?
Because they are creating fear in the mind of the people. This is only to create fear so that people leave. That is why you see they open the Rafah crossing for the people to leave. Why? Because they just want that piece of land. They want 2 million people to leave so that they include it in their own territory, as they have done to the entire Palestinian territory.
Let me come back to you. I'm going to go to Munir Saab. Munir Saab, one of the things that the caretaker Prime Minister Kakar Saab mentioned was the media, the way that the disaster itself, the way that the catastrophe itself is being covered in Gaza. Initially, we saw some, inaccurate information seeping through by perhaps, some of the most followed news channels, news networks in the world. Inaccurate information, false information was shared. When he talks about there being objective coverage, do you still see a by and large objective coverage? If we discount social media, which has, I think, in this disaster come through, because actual information that what is actually happening has filtered through, has come out in an unprecedented manner on social media. But if you talk about mainstream media, would you agree that there has been by and large objective coverage?
I really would not call it objective coverage, except one or two TV channels. For example, Pakistani media is projecting the issue in the right context, or the Irani media that we have seen consistently projecting some other, but the Western media that has more influence, or the American or the US influenced media.
Exactly, that's
Yeah.
what I mean. That's the mainstream media that I was speaking about. I want to go to Hassan Tariq Butt, who's special correspondent with the PTV, who is in Saudi Arabia at this time to cover the emergency session of the OIC on Gaza. Ji, Hassan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hassan, can you tell us a little bit about this emergency meeting, the address of the Prime Minister, and what as he spoke to all the Muslim heads of state at this time in the meeting?
Yes, I'm coming to you live from Riyadh. This is the city where the joint Arab Islamic Extraordinary Meeting is being held to review or to discuss the ongoing situation in Gaza. And the Prime Minister just moments ago addressed the meeting, and in his meeting he expressed the solidarity and support of the people and the government of Pakistan from the people and government of Pakistan to the people of Palestine. He also condemned the Israeli brutalities, and he called for the international community to break their silence and step up and ensure that there is a ceasefire and there is a continuous supply of humanitarian aid to the innocent people of Gaza, who are for the last 1 month since 7th of October are under a brutal Israeli siege and at the hands of the Israeli occupation forces. Over 11,000 innocent and unarmed Palestinians have embraced Shahada, have embraced martyrdom, have been killed by the Israeli occupation forces. And out of those 11,000 killed, over 40% are innocent little children. We are seeing horrible and horrific videos and images coming out of Gaza. Over 4,500 children have died, have embraced martyrdom, and over 3,000 women have embraced martyrdom. Over 192 healthcare workers, the hospital staffs have been killed by the unabated and continuous bombardment by the Israeli forces. And the Prime Minister called for the international community to ensure an immediate ceasefire and stoppage of the bombardment, and and to make Israel accountable for its actions. And the Prime Minister also urged the international community to ensure that there is a continuous supply of humanitarian assistance flowing through. He also appreciated the role of that Egypt has played in assisting the flow of humanitarian aid. If we were to talk about the address of the other world leaders, it started with with Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who used very powerful word and clearly expressed his support and solidarity for the people of Palestine.
Right. Thank you so much, Hassan. Thank you for your summing up of the address of the Prime Minister and overall the emergency session of the OIC. Ji, I'm going to go to Naela. Naela, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Ji. Naila, there is, on the one hand, we are talking about the Muslim world taking, a united stand against what's happening in Gaza. This also underscores the double standards of the West with regards to what's happening at this time with the Palestinians. As we talk about measures that can be taken from the Muslim world, there is in your opinion, what more? We have seen the condemnation, we've seen the urging by the Muslim states, we've seen the pleading by the Muslim states, the unacceptability of what's happening. But overall, what more, in your opinion, can the world, of course, if we discount the Western world, which of course, with America, the US holding a lot of power in this regard, what more do we do?
Basically, Mahrukh, international system is such that you cannot work in isolation. And you might be aware that the Secretary General OIC also visited United States to convince them of reviewing their position on Israel. Now, we must also bear in mind that although it was earlier said here how strong the Israeli army is and how well equipped it is, and they get $3.2 billion per annum from United States for making them more powerful, in inverted commas. The fact of the matter is that 7th October Hamas mission shocked Israel. They could not have anticipated how, when people are desperate for fighting for their homes, they can take measures. And that basically exposed the incompetence of Israeli forces. And it also showed incompetence of Israeli government. Now, Netanyahu is trying for his, consolidation of power by such policy, and is wanting to expand in Gaza. At this moment, they're talking about north, and they're pushing these people to the south and then to Sinai. The fact of the matter is that the resilience of Palestinian people is amazing. Although they are dying, but they are fighting to the last breath. And because of that, when people stand up to defend for their home, stand up to defend their children, their lives, no force can suppress them, no matter what. So I'm confident that firstly, they have miscalculated the resilience and the determination of the Palestinian people, who we all salute. Secondly,
thank you so much, Naela. On that note, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being with us today. Dr. Zia, I think one of the things that Naela mentioned is that yes, we do salute the resilience of the Palestinian people. There is no doubt about that. The faith of the Palestinian people as they fight, there is a clear disparity here. If we look at the Israeli forces, the Israeli the resources at their disposal, and at this time, what the people of Gaza have, there's clear disparity, and yet there is resilience, yet there is this faith which is unflinching at this time. Do you agree with that?
There is no doubt about it. I call it war between UMPs, that is unequal military powers. And that is what has been the hallmark of the hybrid warfare in recent times. Since the 21st century has started, all wars have been between UMPs. Starting from post 9/11 Afghan war, US led West, the whole world one side, Afghanistan on one side. Iraq was punished for fake folder, the whole world on the one side, people of Iraq on the one side. Subsequently, all other wars that have taken place during the last 23 years of this century have all been between UMPs, where on the one side is the US led entire West, very strong, strongest military of the history in the world. And on the other side, the people, the poor people of Afghanistan, Iraq, Palestine, Kashmir, everywhere it is unequal military power.
Of course, we saw the escalation, we saw what's happened, the events of 7th October are before us. But the war is a very old one. Let me take Munir Saab on this also. Munir Saab, the war has been going on for, correct me if I'm wrong, I think 75 years now. If we look at the conflict itself and the war for the people of Palestine, of course, we are like I said, the events of 7th October and what has preceded it, and those are before us also. But in your opinion, the solution to this at this time, like the Prime Minister also said, the Muslim world also said, is only one, is recognizing that this is, the land of the Palestinians. It's been occupied. And if you talk to the Palestinians, it's very clear, they say that why should they allow an occupier to take away what's theirs, what's their land? So for them, there is no other solution but to keep on fighting.
Of course, you are right. It's Palestinians' land, and it was grabbed or taken by the Israeli people with the support of mainly United States. And United States have strengthened Israel to this much power that it can take up or eat up the entire Palestinian land and even the nearby lands. And on the other hand, you have already mentioned that US is basically running on the media propaganda war. And all the wars mentioned by Shamsi Saab, they were based on propaganda. And once again we see
but
a
don't you
huge
think in this
propaganda.
instance the Israeli propaganda has failed?
Israeli propaganda, is not failed as we see in the Western media or the US media, but when the actual, the people are not accepting it. That's true.
Of the US,
even the United States,
yes.
The people of the United States, the rallies that we have seen in different states of USA or in France, Germany and other countries, the people are not accepting the propaganda that is being
given out by the governments, yes.
By their governments. And but the governments are not buying what
but they're not
the wishes
backtracking.
are. Yeah, that's true. But unfortunately,
but for President I want to say this again, because I think it's a development when a country that like France, the President Macron saying that acknowledging that there are civilians are dying here.
Yeah.
So for this time, the only solution is a ceasefire.
That
Stop
is
these deaths.
that. But who listens to them? Who listens to the rational voices? Is there any change in the US policy or the support they are giving to Israel? No. Even finally, Arab League and OIC countries, they have met and they have given a statement that was required, it has been much earlier. But though it's too late, but even the bold statement they have given, I really don't see any impact of that statement on the US.
But how long do you think a country, I'm sorry, is it a naive question? I'm going to take Dr. Zia's opinion on this also, and Naela's, that how long do you think governments can hold out to this kind of immense public pressure that is coming from all directions? From their own people, from, of course, the Muslim countries, from the Muslim world, from their own people coming out the rallies are massive, they are continuing, they are relentless. How long do you think they can hold on?
Until they totally weaken the Palestinian people and have created much desired fear among the neighboring countries. And also,
but the Palestinians are not fearful. They
are not.
Unflinchingly, their faith is as strong as ever. They are resilient as ever. They are, continuing, and their stand is very firm. Dr. Ziad is saying that they're not going to allow their land to be occupied by a usurper. In this case, Israel.
Shamsi Saab is right.
Why should they? Sorry,
please. Go ahead.
Why should they? And as for your question, that how long? Just your answer lies in the history of US wars. Go back to Vietnam. Their government takes very long. Look at the Afghanistan. They stayed for 20 years. People were opposing it. Iraq 8 years, people were opposing it. So they actually take very long. Why? Because they are not fighting for the military objectives. Israel is not attacking them for military objectives because there are no military objectives. They are attacking for political objectives.
Yeah.
And the political objective is to wipe them off. So that is why they will not stop. And as far as the Biden administration is concerned, it is following a strategy of appeasement towards Israel. They are just trying to keep Israeli government happy. And that is why they are not intervening. Otherwise, it is ridiculous to imagine that a sole superpower of the world would veto a ceasefire, the resolution of UNSC. I mean, there is massacre, there is genocide, but at least stop the war. Stop the war, and then we will see what are the problems. Well, I mean, they can negotiate the release of hostages and everything, because the diplomacy never sleeps. It continues to work 24/7. What OIC is doing? OIC knows that there will be no impact. UN knows there will be no impact, but they have to continue making effort because diplomacy never sleeps.
Yeah. This was what I was exactly trying to make the point, that now they have divided Gaza into two strips. On the other hand, they have opened the a crossing so that the people could leave the Gaza Strip. And I have already mentioned in one of the programs that they have created 2 concentration camps. Gaza has been divided into 2 concentration camps at the moment, and even the people who are leaving Gaza Strip and staying and taking shelter in the refuge, and they were attacked. So what does it mean? It means like they are trying to create fear all across the region, so that the people who are trying to raise voice against Israel or US, they should be scared to raise voice. But I'm happy to note that finally there is a voice, though as Shamsi Saab mentioned, that everyone knows their voice, whatever the statements they make or whatever resolution comes up, it would be vetoed or like ignored by the US. Even like once some of the Western leadership has said that it's the killings are inhuman, or like there are people, the civilians are dying.
Stifling the voices
and
that
the collateral damage
are raised for the Palestinians.
Yeah, the collateral damage is there, but that despite the statements, there is no change in the US administration's policies or the support they are giving. So as Shamsi mentioned, like if we see the history, we see like a decade is a must for such kind of conflicts, armed conflicts, where US supporting or involved directly or indirectly. So I really don't see this war, it may take a little longer.
But perhaps the degree of unprecedented public support can sway, or is it naive to think so, Zia Saab?
No, it will have an impact, but it takes a very slow process for public opinion to hammer the head of the government, which is solid rock behind the Israelis and busy in appeasing the Mr. Netanyahu. And in the process, the poor people are dying. The hospitals have been wiped off. The schools are. I mean, there is a village in Gaza where there are no students left now. They cannot restart the academic session once the war is over, whenever it is over. So that is, and then it's only 2 million people. It's not a very large area like Afghanistan. Afghans could take the beating for 20 years because the population was more resilient, resistant, brave, and they had the openings to come into Pakistan, to go into Iran, go into North. Poor people of Gaza, they don't have a place to go.
What is the situation overall as in terms of the borders at this time for the Palestinians?
All the borders are closed. They cannot go out. And the only place they open, the moment the convoys are going, they start to bomb.
Yeah.
So they have political objectives.
Aid itself has become, initially.
Yes. Why? Because they want to create fear. Fear not only in the people of Palestine. They are very brave people. They don't get feared. They don't care. They are dying. Their generations have died. They are sacrificing.
In those voices that support the people of Gaza, that support the Palestinians, the target is to instill fear in them. Is that?
Yes, but only voicing support, in my opinion, is not enough.
Yeah.
How many countries have recalled their ambassadors from Israel? How many Islamic countries? Or how many Western countries? How many African countries? I mean, we have to take some practical steps.
We will, yes, and I think that we, of course, the kind of unequivocal support that the Islamic world has shown for this cause also, is unprecedented, and one has to acknowledge that. One has to acknowledge the way that the Islamic states spoke in the OIC.
Yeah.
Of course, we saw the reaction, we've seen, the kind of condemnation that has come forward. And again, Munir Sahib, we're running out of time. I think your quick comments. Again, I think that there is a natural phenomena of, it's impossible for Israel to stifle these voices. And to what extent can they do it, really?
Until their political objectives are achieved, one thing. And secondly, that is really a very, I cannot imagine that such kind of genocide is on, and the Western countries are not stressing the way they could stress on the US. Even if they take really a strong stance, and very meaningful attempts or efforts can convince US to stop supporting Israel. And on the secondly, like even if it stops today, there is ceasefire and they stop, and
the damage is immense.
The damage is too
immense.
high, and who would bear the bill of the reconstruction of Palestine, and will Israel back out to the pre-1967 position? So they are the major questions. And when the nations are asking again and again for the both nations have the right, as Prime Minister Kakar said, that with Al-Quds as capital of the Palestine, will Israel accept, or US and the Western states will support the idea? And I'm really happy to note the Turkish president's voice, and he has been very strong voice since the new conflict emerged, this session of war
diplomatic
emerged.
effort, certainly. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much, Dr. Zia Shamsi. Thank you for joining us. Munir Ahmed Saab, thank you so much for your very valuable input. Of course, there are no words again for what's happening in Gaza and to the people of Palestine. And at the same time, the kind of unequivocal condemnation that we've seen come out of the OIC session. We've also seen, of course, calls for an immediate ceasefire, which is the only solution. We also saw the caretaker Prime Minister say that, there is, at this time, international media should cover this massacre, this butchery, this catastrophe in an objective manner. Also, that the permanent solution lies in there being the creation of a sovereign state of Palestine with Al-Quds Al-Sharif as the capital. All of those things were emphasized by the caretaker Prime Minister. We also saw the addresses of the other heads of Islamic states. There is unprecedented support for the Palestinian people and condemnation for what Israel is doing, the killings, the massacre, the butchery, the genocide that is at play from Israel. Unfortunately, we are not seeing a stand come out of countries like the US at this time, but at the same time there is immense public support at this time. I will have to say an unprecedented amount of public support when we look at the rallies of New York, in Washington, repeated ones in London also. Overall, the world is watching what's happening to the people of Palestine, and they will not forget. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.